Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Mitra with Parent Information Center of Delaware, and I'm joined by Lori Campbell. And this is part of the Facebook Live Literacy series on supporting your child's early literacy skills. And just we want to take the time to thank you for joining us today. We know that there are a million things that you could be doing, so we appreciate you taking the time to learn about how you can support your child's early literacy development. A little bit about Parent Information Center. We have been established since 1983. We're a statewide organization that supports families of children with disabilities or special needs, and we empower parents to become their child's lifelong advocate in education. And we do that in a number of ways through online presentations such as this one. We provide one-on-one support to families, and we also offer a number of resources on our website and social media pages. And so this presentation is brought to you as a support of Delaware's literacy plan. And the literacy plan establishes a framework to address the state's literacy challenges. Literacy success requires a combination of high quality early learning experiences, rigorous elementary and secondary instruction, and strong community support. The work of the literacy plan is focused on 4 strategic areas: aligning core instruction to standards, implementing curriculum, enhancing early literacy instruction, and supporting educators through institutes of higher education. The partnership with the Delaware Department of Education and Parent Information Center of Delaware is ideal to provide literacy resources to parents, because you as the parent are your child's first teacher and first literacy advocate. So this session, we're going to talk about the 6 skills of early literacy, and I want to turn it over to our guest presenter, Lori Campbell.
Hi, thank you so much for joining us. And as Mitra said, we are going to discuss the 6 early literacy skills in this video series. Previously, we talked about how important reading to your child is, and that would be the utmost important activity you can do with your child to set them on a path for literacy success, or success really in every aspect of life. So these 6 skills are additional activities you can do, things that you can do to foster literacy development with your child: print motivation, phonological awareness, enriched vocabulary, narrative skills, print awareness, and letter knowledge. Okay, so print motivation is just basically what it sounds like. It's just motivating your child to want to read and modeling for them a desire, or an enjoyment of reading yourself. That is one of the most important things you can do, is just having books around the house, modeling reading, whether it be magazines, books, cookbooks, any form of literature will do. You don't have to act like you like a certain, reading a certain type of literature just because you think it would be a good model. I mean, it has to be authentic. And just having those books around the house, your child's much more likely to pick one up. And you can share books that your child wants to read. You can go to the library. A really amazing thing for a child is to go to a library and everything's free, so you don't have to put any kind of limitations on what they can choose. And that is extremely empowering for a child. And they can go and look for books that look good and fill up a little bag, on a regular basis of books. And those books can be around the house, and a good thing to keep maybe a couple in the car for trips, or waiting at the doctor's office, or whatever, whenever you have like downtime, to have one handy would be great, in addition to that structured routine of reading on a daily basis. Probably a lot of people opt for like the bedtime routine. Would be great to share books then, and be prepared, because when they do find ones that they like, they want to read them over and over again, which is actually sometimes super annoying as parents, but it is really good for the kids. They begin to kind of own those books and the words in the books. And then they if they're not reading them themselves, they might just imitate reading. And that's another big thing with these early literacy skills. It's just understanding that these words on this page tell a story and are connected to our speech. And I guess most importantly is just making it fun, having fun with it. You can use books as a learning tool. You can use books as a way to engage your child in discussions about serious topics. Maybe, you know, something is happening within your family, someone is sick, or there's a separation happening, or trouble with a friend, any kind of life experience. You can find a book that would probably have that, or even if you're not going through it personally, in the book, a character might be, and you could really talk about how that might make you feel if that ever happened. And it's just like a real gateway to opening up and learning about your child and how they perceive themselves and the world, social issues. Like there's really no limit to the amount of discussions you can have around books.
And
Okay,
so
and the
here's
following
a,
video is, you're gonna,
yeah,
you're
yeah, I'm
gonna
sorry. I was going to say, here's a video of a child reading, and this is actually near and dear because this is my child, and she's, we were actually, Lori and I were actually discussing her motivation for this book. This is Llama Llama Goes to School, and this was around the time that she was preparing to start school on her own herself. And so she was really excited to read a story about a character that was in a very similar situation as she was. My daughter also has speech delays. And so this is an opportunity, as you'll see in the video, for us to practice on those speech skills as well.
So we have a father ice cream and our really, really hungry, and our name is Nama Nama. I really so hungry. I the kitchen father and I read.
What's that word say?
Stop.
Good job. You see the letters? What's the letters?
Stop.
Right, that says stop, and that's S, T. What's that letter? What's this letter?
Ow.
O, that's right. O for owl. And what's that letter?
P.
Good job. And what's that? Is that a cow?
No, the river.
That's a zebra. Good job.
And so that was just an example of how you can really tie all of this together and to use their motivation for wanting to read a story. And as you heard, she hasn't mastered the words on the page, but she enjoys turning the pages and reading the book and kind of made up her own story.
Okay, and then the next skill we would talk about is phonological awareness, which might be an unfamiliar term for you, but basically it just phonology is the sounds. So it's just being aware of the sounds in words, and you can develop an awareness of those sounds by playing with words, rhyming, singing just nursery rhymes. I mean, pretty much anything with language has to do with the sounds. So you don't have to actually point it out all the time. You can just have fun, you know, just thinking of a word that rhymes, or alliteration. Let's see, you know, you might say the blue book, you know, just getting them to kind of hear the sounds in words and how they can be similar, rhyming or not rhyming. You could, when you're singing a nursery rhyme or saying a nursery rhyme, you could leave the final rhyming word off and see if they have a lot of fun filling in that rhyme. So if let's say it was Jack and Jill went up the, and then they like to fill in the missing word, that's a lot of fun. And then if you have rhyming books, you read them repetitively and they start to remember the words, and that's really getting them to hone in on the way that words sound and why one word would sound right in that rhyming space where the word would be, and why another word really wouldn't sound right because it wouldn't rhyme. And they just, even before they know what rhyming means, they are understanding that it sounds similar somehow to that other word, and it just kind of starts to click the more they're exposed to it. This video talks about how you can, a little bit older children, you know, this is not a skill that maybe a preschooler might be expected to develop, but maybe a kindergartner or first grader, where you're listening to every single sound in a word, which is a huge precursor to reading and spelling. You're really going to have to know how to segment each sound. So in this video, this parent demonstrates that with his daughter.
What is phonemic awareness? This is the key to learning to read. It is the ability to hear, identify, and play with sounds and words. When children can identify sounds, this will help them when they begin to read. Phonemic awareness is the realization that within a word are individual sounds, or phonemes. Just to be clear, phonics focuses on teaching sound spelling relationships and is associated with print. Phonemic awareness tasks are oral. Sometimes kids leave off the ending sound to words, like, "Mom, I hurt my hand," instead of hand. Have a pile of items, like Legos, and sit at a table. Each time they hear a sound in a word, have them put a Lego on the table.
What's the first sound you hear when the word back? Good, good. Now, what's the second sound you hear in back? Ah, good job. And what is the last sound you hear in back? Great, good job.
They can go back and touch each Lego to repeat back, then say back.
Okay, and so we've covered the first several. Now this next one is enriched vocabulary, and that is just basically exposing your child to as many words as possible. That's been researched and proven to be one of the biggest factors in learning to read and reading comprehension, because clearly if you're reading, even if you can read the word and you don't know what it means, it's going to be harder to understand. So exposing your child to the largest amount of words as possible in the first several years of their lives will really be beneficial to them when they get to school and throughout school. So being descriptive when naming things is one great way to do that. You can try to challenge yourself, stretch yourself to use adult language with kids. You don't need to keep it simple for them to understand, because they're super good at understanding bigger words, and they actually really enjoy it as well. So, you know, a big red boat could be like a gigantic red boat. A furry puppy could be, you know, a furry, soft, fluffy puppy. As many words describing as possible, and see what they can come up with as well. And books are also a great tool for building vocabulary. And I've said that before, because if you pick up a high quality children's book, you're going to notice there might be words that even you may not be super familiar with. I mean, authors do a superb job of finding new words to put into these children's books and really help them develop their language and make it enjoyable to read for an adult as well. They're not just easy readers. They're books that have rich language in them. And exposing them to new words is easy to do if you just get outside and go to a new place, a zoo, a museum, taking a trip. I mean, they're going to come into a new environment and learn tons of new words. You know, go to a farm, go to the beach, go to a pond. Like, you can't help but be exposed to new words when kids are always asking, "What's that? What's that? What's that?" You know, and you have to tell them. And if you don't know, then you're going to go find out. And then they're going to see you modeling. How do you learn things? You find resources. You ask people, or you look them up, or you get books about it and you learn. So these things are somewhat natural, you know, that will happen if you are just talking to your children and getting them out and about and exposing them to new experiences. Another way to build vocabulary is talking about maybe the opposites of things. Like if you're trying to describe something, like this is really cold, and associate like what else is really cold, and then they'll think of things that are really cold, and you can give them examples, or what would not be really cold, what would be the opposite of really cold, and then that leads to further discussion. So talking to and exposing your child to new experiences and reading books are just, you're not going to be able to keep them from building their vocabulary. These are just a couple of books that have been written specifically about building vocabulary, and kids really do enjoy learning lots of new words. They like to impress their families or their adults in their lives or their peers with words that it kind of makes them feel powerful when they know the meanings of some of these words that even adults might not know. And these are just two really cute books. The Word Collector is it's a picture book, more for younger children, and Donovan's Word Jar is like an early chapter book. Both of them, like I said, just examples of kids who are really into words and they decide to write them down in a journal or on pieces of paper. And that's also an activity that might be fun for your child to do themselves, to kind of keep track of all the new words that they're learning. And then narrative skills, some children just naturally just are nonstop talking, but that's not the case for every child. And even if they are talking, you can do your part in extending the conversations and participating in them by modeling good listening. Some kids just want to talk all the time and are not the best at like taking turns of talking. So you can model that, and then also extending their language by asking them questions. If they tell you, oh, look, I see a dog. Wow, I see a dog too. It looks like it's brown. What else do you notice about the dog? So asking questions and getting them to kind of really come up with more words to describe and more details in their language will help them when they go to write. They'll be more detailed in their writing. It will help them with their language. And like I said, a lot of times they really want to talk. So the more we listen and allow them to and show interest by showing them that we heard what they said and then wanting to hear more about what they're talking about or what they want to say, is another great way to build those language skills which lead to reading. So print awareness is just an understanding that everything we say can be written, and that what's written represents things that we say. So all of these examples on this slide are probably pretty familiar words to your children. They just might not know that they're words. They might just, they do associate the McDonald's M with McDonald's because they just know that that's where they got their chicken nuggets, but they might not know that the word McDonald's is on there. And so you can kind of help them understand that you're already reading, like you already knew that said McDonald's. And they're like, really? I love that. When I used to teach kindergarten, they came to school and I had all these signs all over the room. And I said, you guys, you already know how to read. And they did not know that they were reading. And it just kind of gives them that, again, the motivation to continue to learn, and also the confidence. Like they're like, wow, I'm good at this. I already know this. And it's just there. And also, I mean, who doesn't love, what child doesn't love the things that you see here on this slide? So you could go through their DVDs, or you could go through like an ad, maybe at the grocery store, a grocery store ad, and circle the things that they're familiar with, their snacks that they like to eat or whatever, and just out and about, identify print that you see around, and it will kind of get them already on track for reading, and they'll start to put together that, wow, those words mean something. And that is kind of the beginning of reading. And similarly to what Midra, the video of her daughter, that stop, you know, she's connecting now that said stop, and those letters spell the word stop. And the same thing with their names. You know, you can have them start to identify their names, and they can then pick out, if there are multiple children at their daycare, their school, or even at home, you know, which one's yours? How do you know? Well, that says my name, you know. And so they just get to really start to understand how print works and why we have print.
Where's the R?
2.5-year-old Mira couldn't be getting a better start for life as a reader.
Next to the I.
She can already name most of the letters of the alphabet.
Right. And then finally A. Where's the A?
When it's time to become a reader, she'll have less to learn because of the head start her parents are giving her.
Mira.
Yeah, good job. Give me 5. Good job.
Look, Mira, melons. M for melons and N for Mira. Look, we have melons in our list.
Mira's mother does what reading researchers recommend. She finds opportunities to point out print and how it's used.
Look, Mira, C for cucumbers.
Mira is learning that signs are different from shopping lists,
Sweetie, peppers. Let's get some peppers.
which are different from stories. Mira is also discovering that all of these kinds of writing are made up of words, which in turn are made up of letters.
C for cauliflower. M for mushrooms.
When Mira starts learning to read, she'll already know a lot about print,
Mushrooms in our list. Which mushroom
much
do you
more than
want?
she knows about self-control.
Want some of this?
Mira is getting such a rich exposure to books in print, it's clear she can't wait to read on her own. In fact, like many children, Mira pretends to read.
Make a with rocks.
Her play reading reveals that she already knows how books work. This knowledge comes from watching her parents read to her, and that's something they do every day. Every evening after dinner, Mira's parents switch off the phone and television for reading time. It's Mira's favorite part of the day.
Eat a good breakfast. And don't forget to wash the dishes, dear.
More is going on here than meets the eye.
Get his little brother.
From her mother's moving finger, Mira learns that the print tells her mother what to say. She doesn't just make up a story based on the pictures.
You're bad.
The details that Mira and her 2-month-old brother Vijay are picking up are certainly important. But the most vital lesson this evening may be the simplest. Reading is a pleasure.
Why is he going? I think it's for the brother, Mommy.
His mommy and daddy want him to go and get his little brother.
The single most important thing that a parent can do to help a child learn to read is to transmit a love of reading to their children. Let them see you reading as a parent. Let them see that you enjoy and love print. And I say this to parents, even if you're not a reader yourself, you can still communicate to your children that books matter.
Vijay can't yet follow the twists and turns of the plot, but he is paying attention to his mother's voice,
Try to stay out of trouble.
tuning his brain to the elementary speech sounds that make up English. He's already laying the foundations for becoming a reader.
And we'll be home soon.
Okay, and letter knowledge is basically just knowing how letters look, and that they look, each one is unique and different and represents a different sound, and how they are put together to make up words. The first words that children usually learn, other than maybe like stop, are their names. And that is the most important word to them, of course, because that is something that belongs to them. And they also like to learn the names of their family members and mom and dad and other members of their community, maybe that are really important to them. So that would be the most logical place to start with the letters that represent important things in their own lives. And so a lot of children come to school already knowing their own name and maybe the name of a sibling, or at least the first letter of their name, and their siblings' names, maybe a couple of words. And you can help them to do that by having books around the house, but also manipulative letters, maybe on the refrigerator, or just toy letters, blocks, things that they can manipulate. And you can practice naming them and lining them up and putting them in order to spell their names or names of important things, or little short words, cat, dog, stop, go. But it's not necessarily expected that they would learn to start spelling words yet, but it is important that they just know that basic knowledge of the letter names, some of the sounds in letters, and that the letters do go together to make words, I would say. You can play lots of different games with them. They can practice writing them. They can draw them with chalk or in shaving cream. That's a fun activity. They can, have many different types of utensils to try writing with, markers, and they can also, of course, on tablets or on computers, practice identifying on the keyboard the letter or drawing on a tablet like that. But I do think it's really important to make sure they do have pencil and paper or crayon and paper so that they can really develop the fine motor skills necessary for writing, because we are finding that kids coming into school these days have fewer experiences with actually holding pencils and writing, just because of the way technology has been, and especially this past year. It's more typing, which isn't developing those fine motor skills to hold a pencil and to have handwriting that's legible. So that's something that might be, another great thing is those magnetic boards, like a Magnadoodle, because it's the same thing. They have to hold the little pen, but it's a lot of fun for them. They can draw on it as well. And that is still developing those skills while not always having to have paper handy, but they can write as much as they can and practice. And if they make a mistake, they can erase it and start again. So they seem to really like that as well. And you can write and have them trace on that as well, so they can start to really form the letters correctly. All right, and then this is just a reminder to give your child a daily high five. So every day, of course, you should be talking with your child. That sounds like maybe not something you thought we would point out, but it is actually, a day can go by where you're super busy and it's easy for them to be entertained on maybe a device or something, and you might let a day go by and not realize how little you did spend time talking to your child. And that's another thing about reading with them, because it forces that to happen. It takes that chunk of time that you've devoted to reading and you are just 100% focused on your child. And as a parent of teenagers, I know that days can go by and you didn't realize how little time you spent with them. And I just think that there's nothing more important or more special than the time you get to spend. So I just think we all need that reminder, and we all need to really think about the priorities and however busy we are to just take some time. Also singing, which can be done anywhere, anytime. Reading, as I said, and all of the, like, you could read, talk, and sing in the same sitting, really, because if you're reading a book that might have a rhythm to it, you might be singing. And so it's not like you have to spend your entire day doing this, but just a simple way, a reminder, like, did we do that? Hopefully, and if you miss a day, you miss a day, but but the goal is to do these things every single day. So playing a little bit and then maybe writing, like I said, on that Magnadoodle or just with chalk or any type of writing activity, modeling that as well. The reading and the writing is just huge. Kids, you know, if you think about how your example is so powerful, they are super good at imitating, scrolling on your phone or you know, typing on a computer, but are those, you know, and though it's fine. I mean, that's life. But what we also want to make sure we're modeling is some of the other behaviors that we want them to emulate. You know, it's really hard to expect your child to go read a book for a little while when they're older if you're not showing them that that's important to you. So that those are just, it can be a challenge. I'm not pretending it's not. But if you really want to, you know, provide the best early literacy environment for your child, then it's really important to model and to prioritize that time spent together. And it is, when you do sit down and read, I think most people do and actually enjoy it. It's just like exercise, you know, like you are glad you did it when you did it. But it's easy to let it go as well. That's why maybe you could even stick something like this reminder on your fridge or wherever, just so that you know you're really taking the time and you took the time today. So that's something, and we know you really care, and I really appreciate that. It's near and dear to my heart, and I know Midra's too. We just want to do as much as we can to set these children up for success in school, and it starts with their families.
Absolutely. And so in thinking about all of the great information that you heard today, you could actually just start with the high five and printing that out. Lori, that's something that I will make sure that I print out, and I have that hanging on my refrigerator at home because it is a great reminder of how we can support our children's literacy daily. But what are some other ways you can support your child's early literacy development? And so some of the examples that Lori shared, use this time also to think about some additional ways that you can support your child's literacy development at home. Or you can also always replay this recording, because there were so many great examples that Lori included that are things that a lot of us do on a daily basis that could help support our children's literacy development. So Lori, thank you once again for sharing this wonderful information. This has been a great opportunity to kind of really take a deep dive into these the 6 early literacy skills with examples, as you know, with practical examples of what we could do and how we can support that as parents. Keep an eye out for additional trainings around comprehension skills and additional literacy resources, including supporting your child's literacy development over the summer and strategies for becoming your child's literacy advocate. Also, coming in the future will be a presentation on supporting struggling readers. And so if you have a child who is not making progress through literacy, and you work with the school and you are doing some of the wonderful things that you should continue to do, because that continues to support your child's literacy development, but they're still struggling, that presentation is going to cover ways that families can support their students and reaching out to your child's school to get support for your child in that area. So again, Lori, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. Thank you all for joining us for this presentation. And don't forget to click on the survey link in the comment section. If you complete a survey, you'll receive a book for your child. So thank you once again for joining us. Take care.
Thank you.